Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Entrepreneurship Now, where we talk about all things entrepreneurship. We talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the absolutely beautiful. I am your host, LaShay LaRue, and today I am so excited for my guest, this phenomenal woman. Uh, where can I even start? So let's start off with the fact that she actually is a salon owner. And with that salon, she has received some incredible recognition. She is one of the 40 over 40 winning an award for influential small business owners. She is a part of the Sugar Land Hall of Fame, you guys. This phenomenal woman is also a certified professional coach, helping women learn how to love themselves as well as their hair. My fellow natural hair queen, Miss Tashell Williams. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, LaShay. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm excited to have you. I was able to speak with you a bit before we started the show, and I am just so amazed at your story. So let's start there. Tell everyone how you got started in the hair care industry.
Okay, I got started in the hair care industry way back when I was a little girl, just having a dream of being a salon owner because having low self-esteem back then, my hair was what made me feel good. And so even though I didn't ever think I would be a hairstylist, I wanted to be a salon owner. I ended up being both. But it just started off as a dream of something that I wanted more of, meaning making myself look good so that I could feel good. And also looking at how other women, their faces, their energy, which I didn't know at the time being young, but I noticed a shift for good in the salon when they would get their hair done. So I was like, I just gotta do this for a living or be in this space for a living because it just seems so uplifting and so much fun.
I love that. And you didn't just stop there though, right? Once you got into the hair industry, you have diversified yourself. So I know you started off with actually being a stylist and you were in that space for 15 years, but you've made some transitions. So tell everyone a little bit more about how you are still embodying that passion and in these different spaces.
So, yes, I've been a stylist for a long time and I'm actually a retired hairstylist, but I don't know if you ever truly retire from
Right.
being a
Right.
hairstylist with close friends and family still calling and I have 3 daughters. So, since I've been retired since 2021, I've transitioned by having my own clean beauty hair care line, Cadence Taylor Organic Beauty, just a solution for women with curly hair of moisture and of hair growth because those are the common concerns of the average woman with natural hair. And also digging deeper into what I believe is the foundation of having healthy natural hair, the education piece. So being able to offer courses, in-person classes, and also a membership where we can be in the community together and actually talk about everything that entails natural hair, meaning self-love, wellness, just overall inner beauty and outer beauty so that we all can become a better version of ourselves every day.
What you're offering is so needed. It really is because as a Black woman with curly hair, and just as a Black woman in general, I don't think this is talked about enough. Most of us are not really taught how to take care of our hair. There has been a shift in the beauty standards, right, for hair for women of color, but the shift is something that needed to happen, and honestly, ideally, it shoulda happened a long time ago, but I'm glad that it has now, and one of the major shifts is about the relaxers, about the
Yeah.
perms. hairstylists, right? I know when I was growing up as a child, that was the gold standard. Having super straight hair, right, was considered the gold standard. And when I look back at those pictures of me in those days, even though my hair was still able to curl up a bit, it's a night and day difference. I didn't have this fullness. I didn't have, and at that time, my mom actually was a hairstylist, right? But she was going off of what was popular at the time. And relaxers was a really big part of that. Everything that I thought was beautiful about my hair, I now realize it was it was barely making it in spite of the damage that I was causing to my hair. And I know even for her, for my mom, who I know loves me so incredibly much, it was hard for her when I made the shift and I stopped getting relaxers and I decided to go natural, right? Because
Okay.
she spent her whole life under that standard of beauty. So tell me a
Mm.
little bit more about your journey into natural hair care.
So, to be honest with you, I had the relaxed hair. I think my mom started relaxing my hair when I was 5.
My mom, she she always tells the story. She gave me my first Just Me 2 Just for Me's when I was, like, 4 years old. That is
Yeah.
insane putting that type of chemical on a kid hair, but it's commonplace. It really, really is. So tell me a little bit more about that.
So, that's what I fell in love with, that look, and I had extremely long hair, and growing up, not a lot of women around me or just had long, beautiful, straight hair being African American. And even as a hairstylist, those types of women, that's how I attracted my clientele. Women that had long hair and they were relaxed. So what made me, I guess, transition into natural hair was my knowledge of environmental wellness. Because to be honest with you, when the when the time came when everybody wanted to go natural, I would tell my clients, I'm not doing your hair. I don't like natural hair. I think it's ugly. I don't know how to make you feel beautiful with it. I don't want to learn anything new. I was booked and busy and I didn't want to make any changes, to be honest. But then I kept thinking, well, am I going to go out of business? Because the industry is shifting. And if you're a business owner, you have to shift with the trends to a certain extent in order to stay afloat. So, being educated about environmental wellness was what changed my mind. When I found out that 60% of what I put on my skin goes into my bloodstream, and what those chemicals cause, uh, I was like, "You know what? I'll just flat iron my hair to death before I put another relaxer in my head." I was like, "I like straight flowy hair. I'm still not with the curly thing, but I'm not putting any more chemicals on my hair." So I rebranded my salon in 2016 after that knowledge and just digging deeper and becoming a certified wellness coach. And I was like, I'm going to do what I never thought I would do. It's scary, but it's necessary. I changed everything. I stopped doing relaxed hair. I said only natural hair only. Not only that, I'm only using products that are non toxic because just because we're not using relaxers doesn't mean that you're removing the chemical exposure from women and from yourself. So I was like, everything from the cleaning, the sanitation. I had plants that purified the air. I had essential oils in the air that had health benefits and just using products that I knew would be safe for my clients. I had a consultation that I would do with them that would encompass their inner wellness and beauty, meaning diet, water intake, stress levels, all of those things. So that's how I transitioned into doing natural hair. And it just opened up the floodgates for other ways for me to be helpful to my clients besides the outside beauty of just helping them with their hair. But my clients today that stayed with me from 2006, they laughed at me. They were like, you said you would never do natural hair and that you would never. And I said, I know, but when you know better, you do better.
Do better.
Grow
Yeah.
in life. You can't just ignore the knowledge that helps you to stay healthy and be a better person, you know?
Yes. And I'm so glad that we're having this conversation because it is definitely something that I dealt with my whole entire life. And it is just so telling to hear you say the exact same thing. You were looking at people with natural hair like, yeah, I'm not touching it. And that was the same reaction my mom had. I know my mom loves me. She loves me to death. But when it came to the natural hair, she would just look at me like, and I got it from her. She has the same texture of hair, but she's always relaxed it. And she was just like, "So you're like not gonna get a perm, or you mean like you're getting less perms a year, right? We're talking about maybe twice a year instead of every like 3 months." And I'm like, "No, mom, I'm not getting relaxed anymore." And the change for me was watching, I believe it was a documentary, but it could have been just a video, but I'll never forget the scene where they had done an autopsy on a black woman and they showed the brain, and they had another doctor come in who didn't know what was going on, and there were holes all in the brain. And they asked the man to say, "What do you think happened to this person?" And the doctor, who didn't really know the whole backstory, his first response was, "Well, I can tell this is chemical burn. Looks like somebody probably threw acid on the person and it's eaten through the skull, and that's where you're seeing the whole." And he's pointing out all this stuff, and then the guy goes, "This is actually a black woman. This damage was caused by relaxers, and she had been getting relaxers for years." And when he said the particular chemical that's in relaxers that actually straightens our hair, and I'll never forget that doctor's response, he was just like, "Why would anyone do that? Why would they're putting this on their hair?" And it
Okay.
just blew my mind in that moment. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? You mean, because we put it on our hair, you don't think about it being able to go into that many layers, right?" And especially because we're talking about your head, baby. Right
Mhm.
up under this, it is skull, right? It is your brain, right? That's a very sensitive area, but I think we forget that the skin is the largest organ on our body. It is extremely absorbative, right? It can absorb anything, and we don't think about that. And that is what changed it for me. That was just so it really just kind of hit home for me. And I was just like, I have no idea how to do this natural hair thing, but I know I am never touching another relaxer again. And then as time went on, I started to see my hair's true texture. I
Mhm.
hadn't seen my true texture of hair in like 20 years of life, right? Since I was 3 or 4 years old, when my mom put that first just for me in my hair, I hadn't seen what my hair actually looked like without that, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie, it was a real struggle. And it was even harder because I felt like I had to do that journey alone.
Yeah.
And I know for a lot of women out there, women of color
Mhm.
who had to make that transition, that it can feel very isolating,
Yeah.
especially because for the longest time, even in the workplace, we were told that our hair was unprofessional. Think about that for a
Mhm.
second. The way that what God gave you walking into an office, the way that God made you is unprofessional. And that can cause a lot of internal turmoil because you're having to deal with it at work. You're having to deal with it at home. There is a lot of discrimination that happens within our community that is not talked about. We don't talk about colorism is a whole different story, a different conversation that we will have to sit down and do. But even in the hair texture, there's a
Mhm.
lot of discrimination that goes into that. You're told that this is good hair. And if you have a tighter curl pattern, that's bad hair. But growing up with curly hair, I always thought the opposite because it's like I can't wear the cute styles that you can wear because my hair is 5 seconds in a Texas humidity and we're back to this. Like
Yeah.
it is what it is. So I always thought of it differently. So tell us a little bit more about how you are embracing those conversations with your now coaching business
The conversations about just the difference in curly hair or
and loving your hair, right?
Oh,
Regardless of what
yeah.
your texture is.
Yes, so for me, good hair is healthy hair. And I just pour into these women and say to them, God chose every strand on your head. Like, can you just imagine how special that makes you? That, like you said, I have my mom's texture, but there's something about your texture that's a little bit different because it's just you. And he made everybody the way that they're supposed to be. So I just tell them, like, look at your curls. Look at how tight it is. It's different textures, different patterns. Like, that's so beautiful. It's like looking outside in nature and you see different birds that are different colors with different wingspans. It's beautiful. And so when you're able to just really see yourself in your most authentic self without alteration, without anything else, that's the beauty. That's the foundation of truly seeing the beauty in your identity. And so I just kind of let them think through the lens of God's being God's creation and how he chose your eyes, he chose your nose, he chose these things that nobody else possesses or has. And so I do affirmations with them because a lot of times when some women need to hear words, I mean, it depends on how your love language or what you connect to. But if you need to hear words because they're so powerful, you may have never heard them growing up. You've never been affirmed, or maybe you've heard the bad things. And by human nature, sometimes we hold on to the bad more than we do the positive. And so there are people that you may encounter, like you said, you may go to work and just to know that you're not accepted in your workplace for truly being who you are. Affirmations are a reminder that you can pull out that tool at any moment to give yourself that reminder of who you are. My curls are beautiful and they're made just for me. I'm a light that shines. I'm a reflection of God's creativity. Like those things, because I think even as being a woman and struggling with that self esteem issue, even growing up and the anxiety and the feelings of not loving myself and not being accepted by others, I think we think that there's a magic potion to making that all go away at some point in life.
Mhm.
And even though I've grown so much in my confidence and wisdom and stuff like that, you
Right.
still need to have that daily reminder because you will face some things in this life, some challenges, tribulations, things that will knock the wind out of you, that will challenge you of being like, well, man, who am I? Do I really deserve this? Am I worthy? Because we all have hopes and dreams. Good, but you got to believe that you're worthy of even achieving them. And so those kind of practices of just affirmation, teaching them how to care for themselves, how you love yourself, the reflection of that is how you care for yourself. So the self-care piece is how you tend to your hair, how you speak to yourself. So for me, it doesn't really start with, let me teach you how to put this product on your hair to make it look good. Because if your mentality, if you're thinking while you're doing this, I truly don't like this. I don't like my texture. I'm ugly. I don't look like her. The comparison, the thief of joy, then we're not going anywhere. So for me, when it starts internally, it starts with the mindset shift. And that's where self love starts because when you love yourself, then you care for yourself. And
Right.
so that's how when I coach, I lean on it because I need it. And that's what's so beautiful about it. I'm able to be in a position to help women because I go through it daily myself. And so as we talked earlier, the accolades, I give God all the glory for that because I can't do all that. Like a
Right.
woman that struggles with self-confidence, struggles with anxiety, that walks around with one lung, I
Yeah.
can't do all that. But I have to sit and connect with the one who can.
Right.
Allow him to work through me to do those things. So that's the foundational piece for me. It's the wellness and the self-love that I teach these women, and then the hair is
So
secondary.
there's so much that I want to impact off of what you said. So the whole time you're talking, I'm over here and my head is just nodding because I can relate to everything you're saying. And the self-talk is so important. And people don't realize how you can actually be negative in something that you're trying to say that should be positive. And what do I mean by that? Well, I know, again, growing up, I was told I was pretty for a black girl, right? Pretty for a dark skinned girl, right? Pretty because of my hair, right? And as a child, that made me ask, well, if my nose was a little different, a little bit wider, or my eyes were a little bit smaller, would I no longer be pretty? Like what does that mean? Like why am I not just pretty and with my hair so if I cut it, am I no longer gonna be pretty? If I woke up tomorrow and my curl pattern decided it wants to go a different way, would I no longer be pretty? I cannot tell you the number of times that people have literally threatened me if I talk about cutting my hair, right? And you start to realize that your identity is actually heavily attached to your hair as a Black woman. And I know I really don't think that anybody who ever said those things to me meant to be rude or
Yeah.
meant to be mean or offensive in any way. They meant it as a compliment, right? But the effect of their words, it actually ended up having the opposite result. It made me feel like I'm not really pretty. It's only these things about me that are actually pretty. If I'm pretty for a Black girl, does that mean if I stand to a person of another ethnicity, I'm no longer pretty? Does that mean that I'm lesser than all the other ethnicities that are out there? Like it really made some things build up throughout the years, and it's things that I never actually voiced. I really didn't because these are not conversations that are had, but that is why I wanted to create this podcast because I feel like there are just too many conversations that need to be had, but they're not. Right? The
Right.
people who need to be talking about these things the most are usually the most quiet. So I love that you are combining your life experiences and putting it actually into a coaching program because it is something that I know so many, even within my family, I know there are different ways that certain family members were treated compared to others. And I know a lot of it had to deal with how dark your skin complexion is, how tightly coiled your curl pattern is, what was considered attractive versus what was not considered attractive. And I know that it led to a lot of unfortunate things as we all grew up and now certain people don't talk to certain people because
Mhm.
of the way that they were so boisterous about what their standard of beauty was at a very young age. And even that being said, I know there are even young girls right now who are still in the midst of it. And I know that there are some ladies out there who has never been able to voice that. So I love that you're offering a solution to all of that, but it's also something that I love about you as an entrepreneur that you are so creative in your offerings. And that's definitely something that I really try to talk to my students about. You know, you got to think outside of the box. There are ways we are experts within our field, and our expertise can be a blessing to someone, right? And it doesn't have to just come from our physical labor in that particular activity. It's that knowledge that you built up over that time. Just the same way you said and I love the way you put that God artistically made you, right? He made every curl on my head, but the life that you live, right, is also an experience that nobody else has had. So even if you're in the coaching space, there is something different that you can bring to the table, right? I love that you combine your experience as a natural hair queen with trying to be healthy with what you expose your body to, with trying to be healthy with what you expose your mind to. And I love that you've combined all those different levels of creativity in your offers. And now it's easier than ever because of this little thing called technology that can connect people all across the world. Because that's another thing that I learned. That my story I thought was unique to me being African American, being here in America. But ever since I started doing coaching and I started doing classes and opening them up online, I get people from all over. And I've realized this happens in other countries. And that like blew my mind that this whole idea of how light or darker skin is, what your curl pattern is, this happens in Canada. This happens in Africa. This happens all over the world. And that's the beauty of technology, though, because you can carry your message everywhere. Now, there is something that you said that I want to go back to. You mentioned about as being a person with one lung, and I don't think we got a chance to mention the fact that you are a published author with your book. One
Yeah.
lung to live. So I want you to talk a little bit more about that with everyone and what the story behind the title and how you came up with that.
Okay, so One Lung to Live is a book that I published in 2022. And so many people, after they've heard my story, they're like, "Oh, you need to write a book." And I was like, "Oh, I'm not an author. I'm a hairstylist. I'm a salon owner. I don't write books." But the pandemic happened, and my husband and I did get COVID. Um, I survived it. And the moment I was better, I started writing because I said, I don't want to leave this earth without leaving something behind to tell about this story of God's miraculous power of healing. So I wrote my book, but my book is stemmed off of my testimony of having my lung removed at the age of 22 from a very rare tumor that had never been found in a lung before. It was not cancerous. And it took me to a place of being on life support for a month and a half, not expected to live, coding 2 times, all type of complications, pneumonia, sepsis, ARDS, everything you can name, I went through and came out on the other end, left the hospital at 65 pounds, too weak to walk, too weak to speak. I was whispering, too weak to press a button on a remote control. I had to call for or ring the bell for anybody to push a blanket off of me if I was too hot or pull it back on me if I was cold. And from that moment on, after recovering from that, that was very challenging because at the time my daughter was 1, she was walking better than me. And so from that, I knew that I could have died. And I was just like, Lord, why did you leave me here? You know? So that whole time in my life, it propelled me into wanting to be a healthier person. It propelled me into wanting to know, what is my purpose of life? What did you create me for to get accomplished on this earth while I'm here? Because I'm not going to be here a long time. And so that is when I was like, it's the natural gifts and talents that God has placed inside of me and everybody that you should really focus in on as far as your purpose. And that for me, that was beauty. And then after that, it was wellness of just wanting to be a healthier person with thanking God for my temple, for a second chance of life. So making sure that I was doing everything I needed to do with it. But it's a very powerful story because you don't meet too many people that nearly died. I had a dream. All of that is in my book, of having a dream and what was revealed to me while I was on life support. And then just the lessons, because once you nearly leave this earth, your whole mindset is shifted. Your perspective of life. You don't waste time. You get to it. You're a little bit more serious about things that people take for play. So a long time I felt like people didn't relate to me because my mindset was so different, especially as how young I was. But I was just more intentional about living the life that God has willed for me to live. So that's a lot about why I'm into clean beauty as well with wellness. It stems from me just wanting to be my healthiest self and then wanting to help people be their most healthiest self as well, because the healthier we are, the better we can fulfill our purpose and have a better quality of life. Because you can be living, but if you just struggle with health issues and stuff like that, it can be very challenging. So that's my goal. And I feel like that's my reason for existence, is to truly bring light to things and bring a solution to just helping people be able to fulfill their purpose and being the healthiest that they can be and being able to get through life and the struggles and challenges, because I had a huge struggle and challenge with overcoming having a lung removed and having to rehabilitate and eventually giving birth to 2 more children.
Oh, wow.
So just beautiful. I thank God for that part of my life. And I tell that story to as many people that will listen because it just shows like God exists because I exist. Because if he didn't exist, I definitely would not be here. So,
And it's your story is exactly why this podcast exists.
mhm,
You are such a phenomenally inspirational woman. You are proof, like you said, that God is real, that anything that you set your mind to, you can do. I know there are some people out there who want to start a business, who want to offer a different type of service that maybe it's completely new to you, but you feel
mm,
like that's your calling. and they're letting fear and other people's opinions and the people out there who make it look so easy. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. I hate that there are so many coaches out there, there are so many gurus out there who make entrepreneurship seem like it's this really easy thing. It's not. It's
No,
really
not
not. I have yet to meet an entrepreneur who does not have a story of trials and tribulations and triumph. You
yes.
look at social media, and social media is showing you the triumph, but it's not showing you the struggles. It's my one of my favorite sayings is it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. I mean, even if their one business that they're working with currently right now seem like it happened overnight, 9 times out of 10, there are plenty of other businesses that they started that did not work out, that
Right.
taught them what they needed to know, that they learned from, and now they've applied all that to this new venture. So I thank you so much for sharing that because I know it cannot be easy to really tell that story. And I think a lot of us deal with that. A lot of us are afraid of being vulnerable, of putting ourselves out there and being our most authentic self. But there is so much power in that because you are not alone. There are other
Mhm.
people out there who have a similar story, right? But they're not at that healed place.
That's
And
right.
hearing how you started from one place, right? You started who else is out there starting with one lung, you guys?
Yeah.
This young lady has had to have a extreme surgery where something is being removed from her body, and she did not let that stop her. She was in a state, I can only imagine the physical toll, let
Yeah.
alone the mental toll that
Yes.
had to be attached, right? To really question if I am going to be able to live another day, let alone if all the dreams that I had for myself are able to come true. And the fact that you stayed faithful, you stayed in prayer, and you still pushed for the things that you had set in your life. And now you're able to have a beautiful, expanded family with two additional children, have a beautiful relationship with your husband, and be able to share your testimony, share your story, and help other women out there. And I think that is just so inspirational and so powerful. And I really thank you for actually taking the time to share that with everyone. And I hope, not even hope, I know that somebody out there
Mm.
is has received a blessing from your testimony and you actually sharing that. And I want to make sure that people are able to actually get connected with you because the story does not have to stop here. So tell everyone how they can actually get connected with you outside of this podcast.
Okay. So you can follow me on Instagram at Euphoric Essence. It is EUPHORICESSENCE. You can also follow me, or you can go to my website, which is www.tashellwilliams. It's spelled TASHELLWILLIAMS.com. And from there, you'll be able to go to all the different things, my product line. You'll be able to book a consultation, all of the different services and offers that I have. You'll be able to connect with me there. So, yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but I'm going to that website because I definitely want to support this phenomenal lady. And I am so thankful for you putting together an actual line of products that is you really and truly practicing what you preach,
Yeah.
offering women an alternative to the heavily chemically based products that, like you said, it may not be a relaxer, but they have so much stuff in it that's toxic. Most of the stuff you can't even pronounce to know whether it's good or bad. So I will
Oh,
definitely be on that site getting me a few products. And I look forward to reading your book because, again, myself, I can only imagine. I'm over here dying of allergies and and having to pause and cough and Lord be with me. Don't let me pass out on this podcast today.
yeah.
So I
Please
can
don't.
only imagine everything that you've gone through, and I look forward to reading that book and finding out more about that story.
Yes.
Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing your story, for being here with us today. Thank you to everyone who is listening and has listened to this podcast in its entirety. And I look forward for the next episode with you guys. But until then, bye, my cherished loves.
Bye bye.